State lawmakers focusing today on college sports. We have the latest on the Big 12, OU, and UT's move to the SEC. Plus, the Texas Education Agency says you can hold your child back a year in school. We have reaction from one parent and the school district. And the Texas Lottery is making some changes. We see if it'll help improve your odds.
Connecting the Brazos Valley, this is KRHD News.
Thanks for joining us at 10. I'm Hallie Jones. State lawmakers are jumping into the Big 12 fray. Lawmakers meeting with university leaders and commissioners all afternoon in Austin. Some call this move a new opportunity, while others say it's the first step of crushing many Texas economies. A financial study says Texas economies will lose $500 million with this move. One senator says this wouldn't have been an issue if the Big 12 had been working on recruiting other schools into the conference.
If we see this consolidation, are we going to see all of that suffer? Are we going to see Abilene Christian and UNT and Texas Southern not have the chance to play in March Madness? Could all of that go away because of the love of money instead of the love of the game?
The House does not have quorum, so they could not meet. Baylor was supposed to speak today, but due to a bad accident on I-35, it was impassable. According to a deal by ESPN, the conference must have 10 teams. Without them, they have 8. But there are options: band together and recruit more schools into the conference, or create alliances and move to different conferences together. A&M is paying outstanding student balances for the year. Not Texas A&M, but Florida A&M. During commencement, the university president Larry Robinson announced the school was paying off outstanding student balances for the school year. FAMU used more than $16 million of federal CARES Act funding to cover fees and tuition for the 2020 to 2021 school year. Meanwhile, Clark Atlanta University is planning to clear student account balances for spring 2020 through summer 2021. Before COVID, only schools could decide if a student should repeat a grade or move forward in their learning. But as KRHD News reporter Rachel Esbayat explains, this year will be different thanks to new legislation allowing parents to also have a say.
Deciding to hold a child back for a school year is a tough decision, but Kayla Clark, a mother of 2, says she would make the choice if needed.
I don't think you should just push them. I think, if they need to be held back, hold them back, but don't expect them just to jump right back into it.
Because of all the disruptions due to COVID, the state legislature passed a bill this session that allows parents to decide if their child repeats a course or grade. For parents with students between pre-K and 3rd grade, it's a permanent option.
We can't overturn them, but I do feel like we have a responsibility to counsel them, talk about the pluses and minuses.
For 4th graders and above, parents only have the authority to choose for the upcoming school year. Peters says so far only 3 families in Caldwell ISD plan to have their children stay back a year. He says if more families choose to do this, it can also throw off enrollment numbers. Rachel Esbayat, KRHD News.
And data from the TEA shows that schools who use mostly remote learning saw an increase in students who did not meet their grade level during STAR testing. In fact, districts with fewer than 25% in-person attendance saw a 9% increase in students who did not meet their grade level in reading and a 32% increase in math, while districts with more than 75% in-person attendance only saw a 1% increase in reading and a 9% increase in math. The Education Department has released a guide for parents and educators on how to return to school safely this fall. The Return to School Roadmap lays out strategies on how to implement the CDC's updated mask recommendation for schools. It also provides guidance in 3 key areas: prioritizing health and safety, accelerating academic achievement, and supporting social, emotional, and mental health for students. This weekend is tax-free weekend in Texas. This is your chance to save on back-to-school shopping from Friday through Sunday. Clothing, footwear, and school supplies will be tax-free as long as each item is under $100. Later this month, the Texas Lottery will increase drawings on Mondays. Starting on the 23rd, both Powerball and Lotto Texas will be drawn on Mondays. The rest of the Lotto schedules will remain the same. The lottery says since 1992, the commission has raised over $33 billion for the state and over $27 billion for state education, plus $162 million for Texas veterans since 2009. The U.S. has now surpassed 35 million cases of COVID-19. This comes after California became the first state to surpass 4 million cases. On the other side of the country, Florida is reporting the highest number of new COVID cases in a single day since the pandemic began. The most recent 7-day average has spiked by 64% by the week before, according to the CDC data. Meanwhile, 70% of adults have received at least one vaccine dose. The White House's COVID-19 data director made the announcement on Twitter today. Vaccination rates have been climbing as the Delta variant becomes prevalent.
The Department of Education is trying to help students and teachers get back to the classroom safely this fall with a new return to school roadmap. It lays out strategies on how to implement the CDC's updated mask recommendation for schools and provides guidance in 3 key areas. The first, prioritizing health and safety, accelerating academic achievement, and supporting social, emotional, and mental health for students. Well, even before the pandemic, mental health experts say social media was influencing feelings of isolation, anxiety, and suicidal thoughts in kids.
We can only expect that after a year and a half, over a year of sitting behind screens, being at home more, that there's going to be some more of these unhealthy mental health situations.
Tessa Stuckey is a licensed professional counselor that works with teens. She says as they get back to school this fall, it's important for parents and teachers to pay attention to the warning signs. That could be things like feeling so overwhelmed or anxious that assignments aren't getting done. Also, depressive thoughts or the inability to find joy, and turning to their phone as a way to cope with uncomfortable situations.
So what has happened is they are seeking this immediate gratification and this instant fix through their phone for distraction.
To combat this, she says that's where conversations with parents and teachers come in. The biggest thing is for kids to see the connections they can make outside of social media and learning how to handle problems like bullying without turning to their phones.
What I always ask my clients, and anyone really, is what do you like to do for fun and what do you like to do that's relaxing? And list at least 3 things for each of those questions, and they don't include a screen. And that's a really great place to start.
She says for younger kids who may not have a phone just yet, but are pushing to get one, parents could consider something like Pinwheel. It's a smartphone that only allows a variety of apps approved by therapists, teachers, and parents. For schools that may not be returning to in-person learning, Bark is a free resource. It helps teachers to keep track of any cyberbullying and social media usage during class on school-issued computers. Well, another challenge may be looming for small businesses, getting the containers they need to serve customers. Ahead in our lineup, the issues the plastic industry is facing.
Google is planning to cut service to some of its customers. After the break, we see if you're affected and how you can prevent it from happening to you. It's a new type of battling being fought underground, the water wars. Some Central Texas and Brazos Valley residents say they're losing water all thanks to the Vista Ridge project, a 150-mile-long water pipeline from Burleson County to San Antonio. According to the Post Oak Savannah Groundwater Conservation District, since the project started in April of last year, groundwater and well levels have plummeted. Meanwhile, the CEO of the San Antonio Chamber of Commerce says rural areas are important, but U.S. cities are the economic generators. Manufacturers and stores are struggling to keep ammunition on shelves. Manufacturers say they're trying to keep up with demand. Some law enforcement agencies and police academies report they're having a hard time finding enough ammo for officers. Stores say they've ordered ammunition but don't know if it will actually become available. Some Android users will need to update their phone if they want to keep using Google services. Google says any device that are running Android 2.3.7 or lower will not be able to log in to things like Gmail, YouTube, and Google Maps. The change will take effect September 27th. If you do have a device with this older system, you may not necessarily need to get a new phone. Some Androids can still be updated to a newer, recent version. Now let's get a check of the weather with First Alert Chief Meteorologist Matt Hines.
And on this Monday, things were pretty quiet around here. We did see a couple of showers and thunderstorms around, but it looks like isolated thunderstorms will be possible each afternoon as we head through the rest of this week. And highs will be slightly below normal as we move through the week as well. And it'll be a seasonably hot weekend with highs back into the mid to upper 90s, but no 100s are in the forecast. And that's some good news for us as we check out our Extra Coat Eagle Eye on Bryan College Station. There's Aggie Land right there, showing 80 degrees, feeling like 85. It's humid. 75 is your dew point. And winds are out of the northwest at 3 miles per hour. When those dew points get that high, it's pretty oppressive. And we feel that humidity tonight here across the area. We did see a couple sprinkles earlier tonight, but things have quieted down for the most part. There are a few showers back in Bell County near Temple and Killeen. Those are moving back to the southwest. So we're not really expecting too much for the remainder of tonight around here, as there is some drier air across Oklahoma and West Texas. That will continue to slide on down, and it looks like that little boundary will go stationary right across our area. So we could see, again, a couple of isolated thunderstorms, but not for tonight, as things will be pretty quiet out there. Again, a sprinkle or two can't be ruled out through 7 o'clock Tuesday morning. During the afternoon hours, we're looking at temperatures getting up into the low 90s and a less than 20% chance of some isolated storms north, 20% Bryan College Station to the south, and we will continue with a chance for a couple of isolated storms as we head into Wednesday as well. So let's look at what we are tracking temperature-wise. It will make it down into the lower 70s. Some slightly drier air will come in later tonight, allowing those temperatures to fall. And then tomorrow, highs will make it up into the lower 90s. That's way below normal for this time of year. 97 is the normal high. So looking at that, that's not too bad for an early August day. And we will continue with those temperatures slightly below normal here. 91 going to 94 by Thursday. And again, an isolated storm threat out there. Saturday we'll go 96 and then keep it right around 95 to 97 for next week for the most part, and maybe a few isolated storms for the beginning of the week.
And to get instant weather updates across the Brazos Valley from Matt and the 25 First Alert Weather Team, connect with KRHD online. It's simple. Pull out your phones, open the camera app, and scan the QR code. A notification banner will show up at the top of your screen. Tap that banner to access our website and all of our social media accounts.
You may notice this at your favorite takeout or drink spot or even the grocery store. Some plastic products are missing or in short supply. The pandemic and a perfect storm of other issues are to blame.
In fact, when you go to a grocery store, it's not surprising to see some shelves that are actually in low supply. And that is also partly due really to the supply chain issues that the economy is facing at the moment.
The chief economist for the Plastics Industry Association says demand surged at the start of the pandemic for healthcare products and single-use items. At the same time, they lost some 60,000 workers to health concerns. Then the winter storm in Texas took facilities offline that make resin, a key raw material in at least half of plastic products. Production of resin is down 25%.
You could probably see limited supply of items for food related to the food services sector, things that you would usually use for when you have like a backyard barbecue, plates, flatware that's made of plastics, plastic cups.
The price has been going up for the past 2 years. So before I was paying about $45 for a case of 600 cups, and now I'm paying about $87, almost $90 for a case of 600 plastic cups. And then they disappeared.
The manager of a Tampa area tea and specialty drink shop has recently had to switch to paper cups. There's no clear timeline from his plastics company on when they can deliver. And while these paper cups are cheaper and more environmentally friendly, they may not be the best option.
Thing is, with the plastic, they were leak proof. One thing that I noticed is that when you put ice in them, it's just ice. It kind of starts getting mushy at the bottom.
The good news is the labor shortages are recovering, although not back to where they were pre-pandemic just yet. The Plastics Association expects production to continue to pick up this quarter and end higher than last year. Well, shelters around the country say they're seeing more animals with behavior problems. Next in our lineup, how an effort to rehabilitate these dogs is spreading nationwide. As the Delta variant continues to spread, we're looking into how misinformation on social media has played a key role in vaccination rates. Dan Grossman found out why that misinformation has been so effective.
The coveted blue check mark. If you've ever wondered why it dubs someone an influencer on social media, this story should clear up any confusion, as it's about social media, the vaccine, and how 12 people with that check mark have been responsible for 73% of COVID vaccine misinformation that has spread online.
They've got a lot of sway and a lot of pull because that is how those kind of ecosystems are set up.
Sam Jay is an associate professor of communication studies at Metro State University in Denver. Wait, if we're talking about influencers, let's make his lighting better.
I think it's more kind of one-on-one dialogic communication that is really effective in this case.
Much better. He says those influencers are so influential in what they do for two main reasons. Their names carry weight, and the things they post are easy to digest.
Convenience is such a good word there, Dan, and ease, right? I think it's easier for us to find those shortcuts. It's easier for us to find somebody who does the thinking for us. And so that's why we've glommed onto these 12 folks, because again, right, like you pointed out, they have credibility. Those are names that we recognize.
It's not hard to see why. Those 12 people have a group following of more than 59 million people and were therefore identified by the nonprofit Center for Countering Digital Hate as the Disinformation Dozen. After analyzing 812,000 Facebook posts and tweets, the CCDH found 65% of them had come from these 12 people, which include a physician who embraces pseudoscience, a wellness blogger, a religious speaker, and a bodybuilder.
Evolutionarily, and as animals, right, that negative, right? Oh crap, I got to get out of here, right? That stuff sticks, it lasts. Those messages, they circulate faster. And I think it's very hard for us to kind of break that cycle.
So what do we do about it? The CDC and nearly every other scientific institution has championed the vaccine as safe and effective. Even some governors of conservative states where vaccination rates are lower have changed their tune and started supporting it as well. Jay says there needs to be a change in dialogue. More face-to-face stuff where emotion can be felt, and a change in thinking that maybe the science isn't lying.
We kind of need to rethink how we're doing this, because at that kind of 30,000 foot level, the vaccine messaging just doesn't work.
The Center for Countering Digital Hate has a more hands-on approach, suggesting in its study that Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and YouTube completely removed these 12 people from their platforms, saying they're influencing people with misinformation at a pivotal point in the pandemic. I'm Dan Grossman.
During the pandemic, many pet shelters around the country have seen a rush in adoptions. But not every pet was chosen for a new home. Some just aren't suitable for adoption after arriving at a shelter. Maya Rodriguez takes us to a place where dogs with special behavioral needs are getting help and ultimately finding their forever home.
For these furry friends, good girl, it looks like an ordinary afternoon play date. But this is no ordinary place.
These cases are quite dramatically the worst of the worst.
Tucked into a spot near North Carolina's Great Smoky Mountains sits the ASPCA's Behavioral Rehabilitation Center. Dogs that experience extreme cases of cruelty and neglect come here to get better.
It's not possible for them to go home and have time and love and just get better on their own. That's why we are here, so we can provide the treatment that they need.
Over an average of 13 weeks, the dogs are slowly socialized with people and other dogs and taught basic skills in preparation for their eventual adoption. So far, 500 dogs have graduated from the program.
Even walking a dog here is considered a win. Some of the dogs that arrive at the center have never even been outside, let alone gone for a walk.
It can be slow going. This little dog is Velma.
She loves getting little scritches on her chest and on her little back end. She can be tucked under your arm and carried around, and she loves going for walks and playing with other dogs.
But it wasn't always that way. Velma experienced terrible neglect in Puerto Rico before getting taken to New Jersey and eventually brought here for additional help.
So when they get here, they're not used to being around people. Not only can they not have relationships with people, because most of them never have, they also aren't comfortable even being close to people or being touched by people.
It's a growing problem, says Kristen Collins, Vice President of the ASPCA's Rehabilitation Services. Shelters around the country report seeing more and more animals with behavior problems.
Spay-neuter has certainly made a dent. So the days of animal welfare organizations welcoming high volumes of adoptable puppies are really going away. Most of our partners tell us that they see more and more animals entering with behavior problems, probably because we are reducing the population, and the ones who end up with us are the ones who need treatment of some kind.
Because of that, the center is also training shelter personnel from around the country, teaching them how to do this work. Since 2018, animal shelter staff from Washington State, Colorado, Texas, South Carolina, Ohio, New York, and Washington, D.C. have all traveled to the center for training, taking what they learned here back to their communities. And during the pandemic, 10,000 people from 600 animal welfare organizations underwent the center's virtual training.
Having that kind of connection with so many organizations across the country is just a very powerful thing. That is one of the most important missions we have, to share what we are learning about these animals.
One that can change the lives of these pups, giving them a chance at a better life. In Weaverville, North Carolina, I'm Maya Rodriguez.
Maya, thank you. Well, finally in our lineup, we've seen the sharpest increase in traffic this year than we've seen in decades. But we're still not hitting numbers from 2019. Why experts say that is.
Holograms are something we're accustomed to seeing in movies and TV shows, but the technology is making its way into classrooms. Through a donation, the University of Central Florida was able to bring holograms into healthcare education. It's believed to be the first university to use this technology in its curriculum. Now, real patients and families give their recorded accounts of what it's like living with different diagnoses.
I developed Parkinson's about 5-6 years ago.
Students have the opportunity to see the physical manifestations of the disorder. And that's important because in speech, a lot of what we are working with, we hear, right? It's perceptual. We hear the breakdown in their speech or in their language and their communication.
The healthcare hologram technology uses 4K cameras to bring patients into the classroom live or recorded. It does cost around $75,000.
Jimmy Kimmel is up next. Good Morning Texas is on the air tomorrow at 5 a.m. Thanks for joining us.